In this video, I will be disassembling this HP Pavilion 15 laptop. This laptop is having two major problems. The first is it is overheating badly, and the second problem is it is having a mechanical hard drive, because of which it is running really slow. It is running slow because of the badly throttling CPU too, but it is slow, I guess, mainly because of the a mechanical hard drive that it has inside it. So we are going to replace the mechanical hard drive with this SSD, and I have some 8 gigabytes of RAM module too. So these two brands are not something that I would recommend you to go for if you are someone who is looking to upgrade your laptop. These are just the options that I was forced to choose because this is what my client bought. So that is why I am going to be using these two. But if you are someone who is into buying SSD and RAM for your laptop computer, then I would not recommend you to go for these two brands. Instead, go for some better brands like I guess Samsung SSD or Samsung RAM. And there are few more good brands too that you can also choose. As for the disassembly of this laptop, I have already removed all the screws. Almost all the screws I've already removed. Now I will be removing the battery cover. I mean the battery itself. I guess I'm doing something not right. Yeah. So the battery is off. We are going to keep it aside. And as I've already removed all the screws, I can now go ahead and get the CD drive off. So the CD drive is off now. And by the way, if you haven't noticed yet, we have screws here too. There are some, those laptop feeds. I have already removed them. Let me show it to you. These are the feeds. Actually, there was only one feed present. This laptop has been disassembled before, so there are some missing parts. Anyway, now we are going to remove this plastic cover. It is actually not all that difficult to get off. Just wiggle it around and you're going to get it. Same goes for the other side too. And after removing this, you'll need to remove two screws from these two corners too. So just get them off, and then you'll need to flip the laptop computer like this, and you'll need to use something that can go between this edge. In my case, I am going to be using this very fine screwdriver. I would not recommend you to do this if you don't want to get any scratches on the laptop's chassis, but this machine is already pretty beaten up, so I'm not going to care too much about aesthetics now. So all you need to do is just get something between these two edges and just pop it like this, and you'll need to keep doing this throughout this side. Upper part is having the keyboard and the trackpad attached to it, and there are some ribbon cables that are beneath. I just want to show it to you. So as you can see, we have multiple ribbon cables, so don't just take it apart. And there is one more cable that I need to detach before we can get this top keyboard and trackpad assembly off this laptop. And I guess this has came off in a bad way. Yes. Yeah. So I made a mistake here, and you should not make one. It was connected here. This ribbon cable was connected here, and because I pulled this a little harder, it came off. Fortunately, it has not broken, and I'm going to make sure to just put it back like this and lock it when I will be reassembling this. So we are going to keep this aside. So we are at the business end of the laptop. This is the motherboard itself. We have a mechanical hard drive, as we were well aware of, and we have the Wi-Fi card. The fan itself is here. I can see some heatsink fins. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get all these cables out from the motherboard. And I can see multiple screws that are holding the motherboard to the laptop's chassis. So I'm going to get my screwdriver now, and we are going to start removing some screws. Just make sure to just keep these screws in a perfectly aligned way so that you have a track of them. Always put the screws from the exact same, make sure to put the screws exactly from where you took them off. And still there is something holding the motherboard. This is not an easy laptop to disassemble, to be honest. Yes, it is not easy. And I guess there is a screw that I'm missing, which I don't think I can see right now, but it is somewhere. I guess this Wi-Fi screw must be the one. So the Wi-Fi card is off now. In case you are having problems with your Wi-Fi, in case this card is faulty, obviously you can replace it with a new one. And I think the motherboard is free now, but we have two more cables that we'll need to take care of. First one is this monitor cable, I guess. Just make sure to be very gentle with these cables, as there is a big chance of damaging them. Be very gentle as you can. And I guess there is one more screw that we need to remove before we can get this motherboard off, and that screw is hidden right here. So I took this little tape off. So there we go. The screw is removed too. Now I guess this laptop motherboard is totally free, but we have one more, this I guess this power module, you can say, where you are going to put the adapter thing. Yeah, just make sure you take this module with the laptop's motherboard. Yes, take it out with it. Don't try to just remove it from the motherboard, because you don't need to do. In case this is faulty, then surely you'll have to get a new one. But this is how the motherboard looks like. And I guess my client has already upgraded the laptop's RAM. I can see a single 8GB stick here installed. And there is one more stick, and it's hard to understand what exactly the size of the memory is. So what I'm going to do is just we'll keep this aside because we don't need this anymore, and we'll need to work on this motherboard now. So we have a single heat sink that is having two pipes which are cooling the CPU and the GPU. So we'll need to remove all these screws so that we can replace the thermal paste beneath the processor and the GPU. So I guess we'll need to remove the fan first. We have a little fan cable too, which is again very simple to damage. So there we go. The fan is off. The fan is actually not all that untidy. And we have the heatsink. I think I should make sure to keep something beneath the motherboard so that we don't damage anything. I'm going to use some foam. So now it's time to remove all 4 screws from this CPU or GPU. I don't know what exactly is beneath this. It can be the CPU or the GPU. The good thing is these screws are going to stay with the heatsink, so we don't need to be careful about placing them. So there we go. Our heatsink is off, and as expected, this is a pretty dry thermal paste. This is mostly the case. We end up getting laptops with very dry thermal paste, and that is mainly the cause of overheating. So now it's time to clean everything up. And by the way, this is isopropyl alcohol that I'm using. This is not water. Don't use water on these heatsink or the motherboard. So both the surfaces are nice and clean. Now I'm going to move over to the motherboard part. So there we go. Both the dies are nice and clean. And now we can proceed with the thermal paste application. For the thermal paste, I'm going to be using the Noctua's NTH1. This is one of the best compounds that you can buy for probably anything, CPUs, GPUs, or even any other application too. I'm going to use very small quantities because these dies are pretty small. So there we go. Going to wipe up the heat sinks for the last time before I put everything back together. And that's it, I guess. We don't need to do anything else. We'll just reinstall the heatsink back on. Here there is one really important thing. You need to tighten the screws in the cross pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't tighten these two first, or these two, or these two first. Just make sure to apply even pressure by tightening in a cross pattern. And by the way, if you're wondering how to remove RAM, it is actually very simple. We have these two notches that we need to pull in opposite directions, and the RAM comes off just like that. So it is that simple to remove RAM. And this laptop is already having 16 gigabytes of RAM. Both are 8 gigabyte sticks. I'm going to put it back. And to install it, it is also that simple. Just put the RAM in the slot just like this, and then push it down. And that's how you install RAM, in case you don't know how to do it. At this point, the heatsink assembly is all done. We have replaced the stock crappy thermal paste with some new Noctua's NTH1. This is a very good compound. Now we are going to just put the heatsink back on. Oh, I guess it is going to go like this. Yes. So there we go. The heatsink fan is also installed. And now I'm going to just put this cable back from where we removed it. The cable is back on again. And I'm not going to bother cleaning this fan up because this is already pretty good. And now we are going to place this motherboard back in the laptop's chassis. So there we go. The motherboard has been seated back in the chassis. And before I put the cables back on, I think I would like to upgrade the storage on this thing. So this is just a conventional 5400 RPM drive, I guess, which is something that no one should be using these days because these are way too slow. So there we go. The drive is off. I am going to install the new SSD. SSD drive is installed. Now it's time to just put on all the cables that we removed. So I'm going to just reassemble everything, and then I'm going to get back with Windows installation. Finally, I assembled everything, and here is the machine. I've installed the battery, I've installed these two covers, the CD drive is in, everything is all together now, and I also ended up installing Windows onto this machine. So there we go. This laptop is completely fixed. It is now a good enough machine for basic tasks like office work or any tasks that don't require very heavy computational power. So this laptop is now in a very good state. We have SSD drive in it. We have 16 gigabytes of RAM, and it has been repasted, so it runs pretty cool too now. So for anyone who is running their laptops for a long time, and if you haven't yet repasted it, then surely you should go ahead and repaste it. If you're not sure about doing it yourself, then you should go to someone who can do it for you. So that is it for this video. I hope you found this video informative and helpful. If you want to see more content like this, then make sure to subscribe. In case you have any questions or queries, then make sure to comment down below. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'm going to talk to you in the next video.